Today's awesome dude of the week is Shang Qin. He was born in Shenxi during the early days of the Han Dynasty, when the Xiongnu Empire was causing all kinds of ruckus. Had built the Great Wall to keep the Xiongnu from invading all the time, and had driven them back up north, but by this time, things were getting bad again. The death coincided with Modu Chanyu's ascension to the Xiongnu throne. This guy was ruthless. Modu became the Chanyu by killing the previous Chanyu, who just happened to be his father. Sometimes he would test the loyalty of his soldiers by ordering them to kill their favorite wife or horse. If they even so much as hesitated, they'd be executed immediately. For the Emperor of China, these Xiongnu were nothing but trouble. Was sent out west to make friends with the Yushi people, who were also victims of Xiongnu attacks. The Chinese wanted to make friends with the enemy of their enemy and team up with the Yushi to defeat the Xiongnu. Unfortunately, the only way could reach the Yushi was to go through Xiongnu territory. They apprehended and enslaved them for 10 years. Eventually escaped and was able to resume his mission. Headed west to where the Yushi were supposed to be, only to find out they had moved even further west. He did, however, find the Dayuan people living in what is today Uzbekistan. The Dayuan were Greeks, left over from when had come through and conquered everything a few years earlier. They had stuff that had never even seen before. Cool stuff like alfalfa that they used to feed their horses, and grapes that they used to make wine. And their horses were amazing, way better than the horses they had back in China. Headed south and found the Yushi, but they weren't interested in allying themselves with China to fight the Xiongnu. They had migrated far enough west to escape their attacks and were happy with the peaceful life they led. Failed in his mission, but he spent a year traveling around the region, learning all kinds of interesting things about folks previously unknown to China. Like the Greco-Bactrian kingdom surprised him with all the Chinese stuff they had in their markets. At their capital in what is today Afghanistan, he saw cloth that he recognized was from. They told him they got it from the merchants in India. Although he didn't get a chance to visit, nonetheless learned of India, Persia, and Mesopotamia. On his way back to China, was again captured and imprisoned by the Xiongnu. Fortunately, this time it only took him 2 years to escape. When finally got back home, folks were disappointed that he had failed to form an alliance with the Yushi, and for taking so long. He did have some valuable information though. The emperor learned that not everyone to the west was a barbaric nomad. There were agricultural societies and sophisticated city dwellers who had a desire for Chinese goods, militarily weak people who desired peace and preferred commerce over violence, and they had horses that could be used to beat the Xiongnu. This was all very intriguing and he sent out on a few more expeditions. Pretty soon lots of envoys and embassies were going out. This was the beginning of the Silk Road. The exchange of livestock, crops, manufactured goods, cultures, ideas, science, art, religion. For the first time, the eastern and westernmost empires were in communication. Couldn't secure a military alliance, but he took the initiative to explore and learn and document information about all the new countries with which he came into contact. Then he went back to the emperor, not having completed his mission, but having given himself a new one. Came back 13 years later talking about, oh, nah, I didn't do what you wanted, but I took a nice vacation and brought you some souvenirs. Chinese emperors, and was certainly no exception, often killed people who disobeyed their command or failed them. Wasn't scared. He could have stayed with the Xiongnu after he had been captured, or with the Dayuan, or with the Yushi, or the Greco-Bactrians, even though theirs was a nation very much in decline at that point, or the Kanju, or the Xiongnu when they captured him a second time. That he went back is pretty amazing. Was supposed to go to China to get an ally. Instead, he introduced them to the rest of the world. The Yushi, who were supposed to get to ally with China, kept on moving south. A couple of hundred years later, after they had settled in India, The Yushi people were known to the west as the Kushan. Under the leadership of, they had themselves quite an empire, and were the ones who first introduced Buddhism to China. The Xiongnu, who caused so much trouble in China, eventually kind of lost their power and identity and just kind of got assimilated. Or did they? About the same time the Xiongnu disappeared from China, a group of nomadic warriors from Central Asia began attacking and conquering Europe. No one knows from whence the Huns came, but the problems the Xiongnu gave the Chinese were nothing compared to what the Huns gave the Romans. Especially under this guy. Silk might not have been the only Chinese export to the West.